When I got that call that Doc's house was on fire, I mean, it was like you was dreaming. But I watched all of it. He didn't have a chance. My world ripped away from me. My heart was just broken. And then they said somebody killed Doc. It just didn't make no sense.
That's beautiful. This is the Appalachian Riviera. You know, it's like Italy or Greece in a way, just built into the hillside. We are in McDowell County, West Virginia. It's the heart of coal mining country, and there was a period in time where this was a really thriving community. Coal was king, and they had all these historic downtown areas that were bustling. Yeager, the town we're going to in McDowell County, in 2019 was clocked in with a population of 264. So this is hands down the smallest town we've been to.
My family, all of us, has been raised here in the town of Yeager. A lot of families grow up here and stay here because whether blood related or not, we consider everybody family.
In McDowell County, no matter where you go, people just come up and say, hey, how are you? Who are you? If they don't know you. And pretty much become your friend right there.
We work hard, we take care of each other, we are fighters. Just because they took the coal away does not mean we're done and we're finished. We are fighting hard to come back with even better things.
Hot dog, it's like a time capsule. You can tell exactly when the industry and the businesses and the livelihood of this town dried up. Montgomery Ward is a relic from my childhood, and it's just sitting here like they closed up shop one day and never came back. In 2005, there was a tragic house fire here in Yeager, West Virginia, that would leave this community fighting and looking for justice for years.
911.
This is Shirley, Dr. Whitley's office. There's smoke coming out of the doctor's house.
Dr. Whitley's clinic was right next door to his house. Clinic staff, they went rushing over there and saw that there was a fire.
We need someone. Can you get the fire department? Somebody come.
Yeah, I can do that.
Would you please?
Okay.
The firefighters went in the house and saw that there was a fire in the living room. Couch was on fire. And there was burning debris coming from the ceiling, and there was a tremendous amount of smoke and heat. They ran up the steps and found Dr. Whitley there in the bedroom.
When I got that call Tuesday morning that Doc's house was on fire, my first thought was Doc was smoking in bed and caught the bed on fire. I get over there, and the only thing I know is to get in the house and get Doc. Well, I got to the top of the landing and seen him laying there. The fire chief told me there's nothing more you could do. Doc has passed. And when they brought him out, gosh, it hurt so bad watching him. When I first met Doc, I was probably 4 or 5. He was my doctor all my life, and he would really inspire me to be a nurse. He's seen the potential in me. I was doctor's nurse for 25 years. To lose him was just like losing my daddy or my mom.
Our 2 fire investigators in the fire marshal's office were Robbie Bailey, a very young fella, and Tony Domingo. They began their investigation that day. The bedroom scene was suspicious because Dr. Whitley could not walk very well on his own. He'd had a fall several years earlier and had to have help getting around through a motorized chair. They noticed that the motorized chair had been pushed several feet away from the bed. Dr. Whitley is in the floor. It appeared he'd been attempting to crawl out of the bedroom to escape the fire. There had been an intense fire. The bed had been destroyed. There was a hole in the bedroom floor through which you can see the living room. The fire had burned completely through this hardwood bedroom floor. The fire investigators believe that someone had set the fire by pouring a flammable liquid or accelerant onto the bedroom floor. They collected multiple samples to send to the State Police Forensic Laboratory. You have the fire in the bedroom floor upstairs, and then downstairs in the living room you have a couch on fire. So it did appear that there were two separate fires with separate causes of ignition. The law enforcement officers felt like those circumstances indicated there had been some foul play. It wasn't just an accidental fire. Under our felony murder rule, if someone dies during a deliberately set fire, it's first-degree murder.
Who would kill Doctor? I couldn't think of anybody that would want Doc dead.
Everybody in this county knew who Doc Whitley was. He took care of people whether they had any money to pay him or not. He took care of them.
Doc Whitley was really, really something special. Doc and Kathy Lively, his nurse, took care of me and my family really well. When I got a phone call that Doc had passed and burned up in a fire, that was just a shock.
We are going to meet Sid Bell, and he was the prosecutor for McDowell County in 2005 when the fire at Doc Whitley's house took place. This is new for me because we have reached out to prosecutors' offices in pretty much all of our cases, and they usually do not want to talk with us. But Sid agreed. Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Obviously, in a small town, when something traumatic happens, everybody knows about it pretty quickly. In this case, the victim, Doc Whitley, was that someone that you knew?
Yes.
So when you heard about his passing, how did that impact you personally?
Well, I was shocked, of course, because they told me that they suspected arson. I don't know of anybody who ever physically threatened or did anything to harm Dr. Whitley. But he had political enemies in the county. He was involved in politics. He was in the House of Delegates. At one time, he was president of the McDowell County Commission.
Doc had power in McDowell County in the state. He ran it. If you wanted to run for any office in the state of West Virginia, you came to Doc. If you didn't get Doc's approval before you ran, you wouldn't win.
His idea of campaigning would be to first talk to his patients who came in and out by the dozens every day. They would say, Doc, who do you want us to vote for? Whose signs should we put up? That's the way he ran his political influence. When you're involved in politics, you're going to make enemies.
There's some would probably like to see him dead. But after his injury, where he was in a wheelchair, Doc had lost a lot of his political powers. He didn't go to a lot of meetings like he used to. They voted him out of being president of the committee. It's kind of hard on Doc's ego.
So were any of his political affiliations explored? Did anybody dig into that part of his
I'm
background?
sure they considered that. There was a lot of talk about his enemies, but I think the fact that he had been out of the picture for almost a decade eliminated those from my standpoint. I thought it probably would have been someone who was mad at him over some personal matter rather than a political matter.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was going on with his personal life?
We found out in the course of the investigation that Dr. Whitley, in recent years, had been living at his Coon Branch mountain home, which was several miles away, with his wife, Sue Whitley.
They didn't live in downtown Yeager?
No, no one was living in his two-story house down beside the clinic. It was just sitting there vacant. So when Dr. Whitley was with his wife on Coon Branch Mountain, his son Jack came in and believed that she was not taking care of his dad, that his bowels were impacted and his health was being neglected. So Dr. Whitley decided to move to Kathy Lively's house so he would be better taken care of.
Is Kathy someone that you are familiar with?
I'd known Kathy a long time. We all liked Kathy, and she was really highly thought of as a nurse.
And Doc Whitley trusted her enough to move from his wife's house into her home.
Right. But when his sons came in to check on him at Kathy's house, they saw a bunch of possessions there that they thought were too expensive for the nurse to be able to afford. They got the idea that she was taking financial advantage of Dr. Whitley.
Oh.
His children said I was taking advantage over his accounts. They said my home looked like a mansion. I worked all my life for what I had. And my home was just like a regular, anybody else's house. Nothing fancy.
There were suspicions that Dr. Whitley was no longer running the clinic, and that Kathy, as an LPN, was issuing prescriptions for narcotics. Dr. Whitley decided to take the keys to the clinic away from Miss Lively, stop her access to bank accounts, basically cut her off from any involvement with the medical clinic. And she became very angry about that. At his home, the evening before the fire, they argued, and Kathy Lively made the statement to Dr. Whitley, "I will kill you."
The night before the fire, there was a patient needed a prescription. Well, that was the wrong milligram that she was taking. So I took the patient's file over to Doc's house, and I was telling Doc, "You're not giving her the right milligram." And we started arguing, and I said, "One day I'm going to kill you." We argued all the time. That was natural between us. I wasn't threatening Doctor. People gets mad and just says, "I'm going to kill you." I didn't know Doctor was going to be dead the next morning.
How quickly would you say investigators really focused on Kathy?
I'd say within the first few days. You find out that Kathy Lively said, "I will kill you," to Dr. Whitley. Everything was pointing towards Kathy.
They brought me up to the sheriff's office. They questioned me. They thought I had killed Doctor because he fired me. And I'm like, am I really hearing this? I hadn't been fired. No truth in none of that. And then they said that I was writing prescriptions for controlled substance, but that was wrong. Doctor agreed to everything that I called in or wrote. He signed off on everything I did.
Can you walk us through what their theory of the case was?
Law enforcement's theory was that Jason Lively, Kathy Lively's son, had gone into the house to intimidate or terrorize or try to convince Dr. Whitley to change the decisions he had made to cut Kathy off completely from the operation of the clinic. And that Jason Lively had started that fire, and the fire caused Dr. Whitley's death.
They accused me of writing prescriptions for me and Jason. They said Jason killed Doctor because he was using prescription drugs or selling them. But if Doc was dead, nobody can write a prescription. It just didn't make no sense, none of it. I started working for Doc when Jason was 15 months old. Jason was around Doc his whole life as a doctor, friend, because Jason excelled in sports, wrestling, weightlifting. Doc would tell him what to eat and give him advice, tell him when he was messing up. Doctor and Jason was close.
Can you tell me a little bit about what Jason's reputation in this small town was?
He had a reputation for being very bold and that he was involved with drug use.
After his wrestling injury, he started taking pills. That was kind of hard on me to get him straightened out and back on track. But at the time of the doctor's death, he got a job in the coal mines, a steady job, and that was hard to come by in McDowell County at that time.
A local person, Brian Sayers, said that early the morning of the fire, he had picked up Jason Lively and his friend Tommy Owens, and they wanted to be dropped off at Dr. Whitley's house. And then they learned that Jason Lively went up to Sue Whitley's home on the mountain the day of the fire to tell her that Dr. Whitley was found dead. And while there, he stole Dr. Whitley's laptop computer and went out trying to sell it that day.
Sounds really bad.
Yes.
My name is Jason Lively, and I grew up in Yeager, West Virginia. That day, I was working at the coal mines. The electrician comes in, and he was like, "Look, man, cops are out there, and you're going to jail." When I got out, there was cops everywhere. And one of them that is arresting me is a childhood friend. He's putting the cuffs on me, and he was like, "Jason, man, they got you for murder." I said, "Who the hell did they kill?" He's like, "Doc, this was 2 months or whatever later." I was like, "Right now they just decided to try to blame somebody for that?" He was like, "Yeah." I couldn't believe it.
Jason Lively and Tommy Owens wanted separate trials, which was granted. Jason Lively was tried first.
And so what is the narrative that you presented at trial?
We decided to use evidence about the argument with Kathy the night before, and then Jason Lively stealing the computer. We also had what Brian Salyers told us about dropping him off at Dr. Whitley's house that morning, put together with the state fire marshal's opinion and report, added up to felony murder.
And so when you started calling witnesses, Brian Salyers is someone that you called in?
Yes, but Brian Salyers said that his statement was false, that he was coerced into making this statement about dropping Jason Lively and Tommy Owens off at Dr. Whitley's house that morning. He said that didn't happen.
So one of your star witnesses gets on the stand and completely changes their story.
Yes.
Does it make you, as the prosecutor, second-guess your case?
I didn't have any reason to doubt this case because of everything else that supported what Brian Salyers had said initially.
The law accused Jason of going up on the mountain the day Doc died and said Jason stole the laptop from the Coon Branch house, but Jason didn't steal it. While Doctor was staying at my house, he said to Jason, "You can take that laptop." Jason is not computer savvy, so he was just going to sell it. I think maybe 2 or 3 days before Doc died, Jason asked somebody, did they want to buy it?
After you've laid out your case, what did Jason's defense lawyers present to the court?
The defense argued you really couldn't rule out an accidental cause of the fire, and that there's a good possibility that Whitley could have started the fire himself because he smoked in bed. The bed was heavily damaged in the fire, but the experts concluded that could not have been caused from a cigarette.
So the theory of it being an accident that Doc started himself was ruled out?
Yes. I relied on the state fire marshal's report from Robbie Bailey and Tony Domingo that this was a deliberately set fire. Robbie Bailey believed there were 2 separate fires that had been set, which would not be consistent with an accidental fire. In addition, the report indicated that the sample from the bedroom floor showed the presence of the chemical toluene, an accelerant. They said this was commonly found in charcoal lighter fluid or gasoline.
It's very damning.
It is.
The night before the verdict, Jason said, "Mom, if I get convicted, don't cry." And when they come back with that verdict, guilty, Jason turned around and looked at me, and I had to stand there and do what he said. My heart just ripped out.
Jason was convicted of first-degree murder, which means it's a life sentence.
So how did you feel securing that victory?
I was very satisfied with it, very relieved. This time, Robbie Bailey and Tony Domingo gave contradictory testimony. Robbie Bailey testified that there were 2 separate fires.
Okay.
One in the bedroom and one in the living room. Mr. Domingo said, I believe there was only one fire, that the fire in the bedroom floor and living room ceiling had caused burning debris to fall down and catch the couch on fire.
Is that a major contradiction between your fire investigators?
It was, because I was going under the belief that they both thought there were 2 separate fires.
So Tommy's trial takes place after you've already secured a guilty verdict for Jason. What does the jury come back on with Tommy?
He was found not guilty.
Did that plant a seed of doubt with you?
It worried me a lot.
When I got to prison, they put me in Mount Olive Correctional Complex. We had a horrible warden, horrible, horrible people. It got to a point to where I had kicked and screamed and told them that I was innocent so many times that I was ashamed to say it. And then I got a letter from a childhood friend.
I met Jason at high school. Fast forward to 2005, and Jason had been arrested for Doc's murder. What I knew was Jason was convicted and Tommy wasn't. I never knew why, one was guilty and one wasn't. I just felt for Jason, I'm thinking, how is he doing? And I just wrote him. He wrote right back. He seemed so sweet and nice. He started calling, and then he started sending me transcripts of his trial. And I'm seeing this evidence in Jason's favor. And I knew instantly then there's no way Jason did that. There's no way.
Jason is serving out his prison sentence. Do you just put this case behind you at this point and move on?
Yes, but the last thing that a good prosecutor should want is to have someone wrongfully convicted. I had heard of the Todd Willingham case in Texas. He was convicted of setting a fire that caused the death of his young children. He said that he was innocent all along. And a group of nationally recognized fire investigation experts all concluded that there wasn't any evidence that it was a set fire. That case caused me to be really concerned about what really happened in the Jason Lively case, about what really started that fire. So I decided to try to find one of those experts.
We have covered a number of cases where people have been wrongfully convicted and the prosecutor's office refuses to look deeper into the case. Why did you feel comfortable re-examining your own work?
Prosecutor's job is not just to win a case or get a conviction. I always believed I wouldn't go wrong by doing the right thing. And as soon as I got the report, I recognized it was favorable to Jason Lively.
Can you walk me through the report?
He debunked the notion that there were 2 points of origin. He said the fire definitely started inside the floor, between the bedroom floor and the living room ceiling, and spread up to set the bed on fire, and burning debris fell to the lower floor to set the couch on fire. So he was strongly of the opinion that there was only one fire.
Only one point of origin for this fire?
Yes.
And it couldn't have even been someone pouring something on the floor upstairs. It had to start in between the ceiling and the floor.
In between, he believed it was an accidental fire caused by an electrical box under the bedroom floor.
What made him think it was electrical in nature?
The fire had smoldered for several hours, burning a wide area of the subfloor and wooden joists.
Those beams are completely gone.
It all pointed to the fire having started where the electrical wiring runs through.
So the original state fire marshal's report says that this fire was willful and malicious in nature, set in order to burn the structure and its contents. And here you have an expert that is nationally recognized saying that it is electrical in nature and accidental, and that there was only one point of origin. So if this report comes back and says no arson, what does that mean for a murder conviction?
If this was not deliberately set fire, then he's not guilty of murder. I was no longer the prosecuting attorney at that point, so I provided that report to the defense attorneys and said, you know, you need to look at this. This is exculpatory evidence.
The first time I read Craig Byler's report, I'm seeing all of this information that's on his side that nobody had really talked about. This man has degrees from Harvard. I think one of the people that investigated to begin with had a few weeks training, and so I kind of thought, okay, we're going to break this wide open and he's going to get out soon.
It sounded so good. I was so happy. I was calling family. God has answered our prayers. Jason's coming home.
We was all hoping to get out. I believed it. With all my heart, I believed it.
I was called as a witness at the habeas corpus hearing. I had not been prepared. I didn't have a copy of the report.
No one prepped you before the hearing?
No one talked to me. And I thought they would have Dr. Byler there because I'm not an expert in fire investigations. But he wasn't there. So I testified that from my recollection at the time that it probably was an electrical fire, but it could have been something else. My understanding was that he didn't completely rule out arson.
Sid Bell didn't explain it the right way. He misinterpreted what the report was saying.
That was all of his state appeals. 12 years, thousands of dollars gone, nobody left to turn to.
That was a horrible, horrible feeling. Do you know what it's like to have your hopes dashed repeatedly? You get so mad and so helpless, can't do nothing. After a while, you just like, when's it gonna stop?
Things got ugly, things got dark. Jason was very depressed. I was very depressed. Craig Byler's report didn't help him come home. So now what? I took a stand for Jason, and I was kind of scared to because Jason was a murderer to everyone. Everyone in our small town, they listen to what they hear. So it was arson, it was murder. And I thought, how can I get anyone to believe in his innocence and help me fight? So I went online, shared a few transcripts, and talked about his case to try to get the public to understand, you know, how wrong Jason was done. The Craig Byler report had so much evidence in Jason's favor. I started to get feedback from the public, and some opinions were turned around with what I was posting.
Billy supported me the whole time. She was always there, answered all my phone calls. She's loyal, strong, determined. She was calling newspapers, emailing lawyers. We were both working every day to get me out.
Us working on that together, Jason's charismatic. Yeah, I fell in love with him along the way.
Billy's everything that you could possibly want, man. She's perfect. You know, it's nice to have somebody just be completely honest with.
I did not know the road ahead of me and how hard that was going to be by having feelings for him. It was painful. If I could have stopped it all, I would have. But it just happened. Jason's lawyer said that this is as far as he could take Jason's case because now it's going to go into the federal court. He said that we would have to get another attorney, which would be at least another $50,000 to start. And we didn't have any more money for attorneys. The other option was the Innocence Project.
Jason had been in prison more than a decade. What struck me was just how adamant he was that he didn't do this. He was also grateful that someone was finally listening. When we got the original habeas report, And when we saw the former prosecutor, Sid Bell's false testimony about the Byler report, we knew something wrong had happened here. Dr. Byler's report showed it's not murder because it wasn't arson. Dr. Byler hadn't spoken with anybody about this case since 2012. And when we read him what had been said at the hearing, he was horrified. He said, "I can't believe this. There's a person in prison right now?" Trying to correct this terrible mistake began with us reaching out to Sid Bell. So we drove out to West Virginia, and Dr. Byler met us there. This was incredibly awkward because we had seen the transcript where Sid Bell had misstated what Dr. Byler had told him, and we assumed that that was intentional, that Sid Bell was preserving what he should have known was a wrongful conviction. We thought that he was the villain of this story.
So this big meeting happens. Was that your first time meeting Byler in person?
In person, yes. Dr. Byler explained that he is very strongly of the opinion that this was not arson and that Lively's conviction should be set aside because it wasn't deliberately set fire by a human being.
So how did you feel finding out that there was no murder, that an innocent man was in prison, and that you were a part of it?
It's disturbing. I mean, you stay awake at night thinking about things like that. When they came to meet with me, I'm sure they thought I might have the attitude, this is my conviction and I want it upheld. But I acknowledged that we were wrong.
It was one of the most incredible moments of my career. And he wrote an affidavit that I don't think I'll ever see again. He admitted he had made a terrible mistake. We provided Sid Bell's affidavit to the Solicitor General's office in West Virginia. Dr. Glenn Jackson agrees 100% with Dr. Byler that this was accidental. He also adds additional findings. The finding about the toluene had been a false assumption all along. The sample that was found at the fire scene could not have come from gasoline, and it could not have come from charcoal starter fluid. However, if you burn wood, that creates toluene. Sid Bell admitted that that testimony that he had put on had been false.
We waited and waited and waited. There was no timeline. It's very lonely, very heartbreaking.
We gained hope, and then it's starting to fade again. I start thinking, they ain't gonna let me go home. It drives a man insane.
They kept him there years and years. It's like kidnapping. And he had to defend himself physically on multiple occasions from some truly vicious people. The Aryan Brotherhood had a hit out to kill him because he refused to join.
They always wanted Jason to have a tattoo to put their mark on him, and he never would. So they put a hit on him to take his life. And there had been other prisoners in there murdered.
And so Jason spent the majority of his time in prison in solitary confinement. It's absolutely torture what he went through, especially after the state had developed evidence showing he was innocent.
Dear Emily, the time to act to stop this injustice is now. We have had knowledge of this compelling exculpatory evidence for 2 years. Further delay based on our failure to act would be immoral and unethical.
And so the court schedules a hearing. The lead up to that hearing is excruciating. He was very uncertain what would happen.
I spent 4,000 days in solitary confinement. Solitary has been locked down 24/7. They offered me a plea for time served. I could have got out right then, but I'd had to walk out and say that I did it. After you do 14 years and you're in solitary confinement and somebody telling you that you can leave right now and be with your wife, the one that you've been dying to be with for years, but you ain't gonna have no future. And you're gonna have to admit that you're wrong and say that I was guilty of murder. All that time, all that they took away from me being for nothing. I turned them down.
Hey, hello.
Hi,
How you
Jason.
doing?
How are you,
Come on
boss?
in.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you, ma'am.
Hi,
This is
Billy.
my wife.
I'm so happy to meet you.
Can you tell me about this?
This is my cell, Mount Olive. This is where I stayed at. That right there, it's 11 years right there.
You spent 11 years in this
11 years in that right there.
So September of 2020, you have been in prison since 2005?
Yeah.
And you get called into this hearing with your lawyer, Andrew George. This is what kind of hearing?
For the judge to say if Jason could come home or not.
To get me out.
To vacate the
vacate
sentence.
my sentence, yeah.
And Andrew told me, I don't know if Jason's coming home or not.
We were asking a judge to do something extraordinary at this hearing, which was to throw out a conviction. We didn't know whether or not the judge would do that.
I was told to pick Jason some clothes out, had them packed in a bag, and we had no idea what to expect.
Jason comes in his full prison outfit, and the judge started with the findings that led to Jason's conviction. It didn't look so great for us.
I was just trying to stay focused. And the whole time, when he's talking, I can't make out what he's saying, and it's all going so fast.
Then the judge went into the new findings of Dr. Byler and the state expert. He said that in light of this new evidence, no jury could have convicted you. There was no arson here. He affirmatively found that Jason was innocent.
I asked him if I could go home. He told me I could.
Hearing the judge say all these things, I couldn't process it. And then I look and see Jason standing up and they're taking the cuffs off, and that's when it all came together, like he's coming home.
I just ran up here and grabbed him, and I gave him the biggest hug and kiss. That was the first time I was able to really kiss him in 15 years. Oh, that was the best feeling I could ever have.
It's like it's the best feeling you could ever imagine. I mean, like, oh my God. It just exploded in a million pieces of happiness.
Who all was there that day?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody. We have a big family. Everyone showed up. It's almost like a dream, you know?
So what are your plans now?
Today,
Yes.
I'm going to go to my mom's house in each state.
I thought when Jason got released that day, he was going to be the same Jason that went in. But he still lives in torture.
You know, you think being exonerated and coming home and freedom and then everything's going to be okay after that, but it's not. You know, then you have these demons pop up and PTSD.
Yeah.
I think I'm strong. I know I am, but I swear it's hard. Just working every day. I mean, it's a struggle just to get out of the house.
You think you're going to have this happy ending, and then that's where almost the real work starts.
I have good doctors. They're trying, but we can't even afford them.
To have Jason have a decent life is to see doctors, counseling, therapy, medications.
It's hard for us.
The state has a moral obligation to make him whole as best as it can. Jason and Billy have now gotten married, and that's wonderful, but they have to make ends meet. So we have petitioned for Jason for compensation under a West Virginia statute that expressly provides for paying damages to wrongfully convicted people. Unfortunately, the state is moving to dismiss it, but we're not going to go away. We're going to take this as far as we possibly can.
They have admitted that they incarcerated an innocent man. What is the cost of 15 years of a person's life?
There's not a number. you could put on what they took from Jason to pay him back to fix what they did to him.
The state ain't done nothing for me. You know what I mean? Nothing.
Yeah.
They haven't even said I'm sorry. And if it wasn't for my family and her,
Yeah.
well, I couldn't have made it.
Oh, wow. It's just like he left it the night before he died. It's like the house is a metaphor for the situation. You know, this fire happened in 2005, and it is still sitting here, a burnt-out shell. It's eerie because 2 people lost their lives here. Doc Whitley died in this building, but Jason Lively's life was ruined by the fire that happened here because mistake after mistake was made. And when all these mistakes add up, what we're left with are shambles. Who's gonna fix it? Who's gonna put this back together? Who's gonna make it right for Jason Lively and his family?